All right, Coach, go ahead and get started.
Yeah, obviously excited about the week that lies ahead. Big time opponent in Western Michigan Conference game, week 2. First time that's happened since I've been here. So it's exciting. Obviously, we have things that we need to clean up from the Tennessee game the other night. We were able to meet with the team Saturday. Wanted to address certainly first and foremost the penalties. We were flagged 13 times. One was offsetting, so they had us for 12 penalties, but 9 of those were either before the ball was snapped or after the play was over. So we certainly addressed that on Sunday when we got back out on the practice field. And obviously we've been full speed ahead ever since with Western Michigan. Coach Lester's done a great job there at Western. Very good football team. They were in a one-possession contest, in the fourth quarter against Michigan State before Michigan State pulled away there late. But it's going to be a good football team, very well-rounded, very good defensive team, very good offensive team. Specialists certainly have done a good job there. So it'll be a great challenge right out of the gate here, our home opener, MAC West opponent, and we're excited to be, preparing for the game this weekend.
Talk about having a couple days to meet with the team. I guess over these past couple days, how have you guys kind of reset and put last Thursday in the rear view?
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to do that, but I meant what I said in the locker room after the game was over. That hey man, this is over with. The Tennessee game is over with. We're full speed ahead here on Western Michigan, and I said it the other night when the game was over. I meant it, that there were a lot of positives to build on when you got back. I watched the tape on the plane and then watched it again the next morning. We weren't able to get the guys in here on Friday due to the quick turnaround and those guys having class and all that. So we had them in Saturday as a whole team for the first time. And every group though, every position group, every position coach, everybody talked about the same things. There's so many things that were positive, but yet we got to clean up a lot of the details. The improvements you can make from week 1 to week 2 certainly can be significant. But we attacked it on the practice field Sunday, and obviously it's an off day today for us on the field. So when we get back together tomorrow, it's full speed ahead with Western, and still feel the same as I did the other night. That a lot of positives to take out of that we can build on.
And obviously, you mentioned that this is, I think, the earliest conference game that you guys have had outside of maybe 2020 when there was only conference games. But how big of a week is this, and how do you kind of balance, knowing that the MAC often, final standings are determined by a game or so, knowing that this game could mean a lot, in 2 months or so.
Yeah, well, they all mean a lot, but certainly in this conference, it's very competitive from top to bottom. I think that's the beauty of our conference here, and playing some competitive games. I talked about it with our football team in training camp that over the last 3 years we've been in 15 one-possession games in the MidAmerican Conference. And I think it speaks to the parity of the conference, but yet they're all big. No, we're not going to make it. Certainly, it's the next game on our schedule. We try to certainly emphasize a one-day-at-a-time approach always. This is the next game on the schedule. It just happens to be against Western Michigan. We know each other well. We've been in some battles with them over the last 4 years, and it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be a tough contest. Both teams are trying to get their first win, and it just happens to be week number 2 instead of later in the season. So it all starts with us making sure our preparation is right and we have a great week of practice.
And offensively, I think the top 3 receivers for you guys had 5 catches apiece. How nice is that to see the ball being spread around, or being that the ball was spread around last Thursday?
Yeah, I think it's good. I was proud of the way John played in the game. I thought he really handled himself well. He did a good job of operating the passing game and making good decisions, making good reads, and to see the distribution not only with the wideouts, but to see both Tanner and Brady get involved in the action, and the running backs getting involved in the action. Certainly we want to make the defenses that we play defend the whole field and not just key on one person. And so John's worked hard to develop his relationship with the playmakers on offense, and we just got to continue that. And the other night was, again, a lot of positives to build on from that and continue to just try to get better each and every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Friday, obviously there's big announcement that the plan to expand the college football playoff. Did you have any thoughts kind of on what that means for Mid-American programs?
No, and I know, obviously, and if you look at the history of our league, that would have given a team like Western Michigan, that 2016 season, an opportunity to get into that. And so we know it's tough, for a conference like ours, but it also gives you hope. So I think that's awesome. And hey, the more teams, the better, I think. So I look at it as a positive, and I'm a big fan. That just means more games. I'm not sure how some of the big schools or the top schools feel about playing what looks like it's getting closer to maybe an NFL type schedule where you're playing 16 and 17 games. But I love football, so I'm excited to be able to see more games.
Coach, you mentioned you loved how John was able to spread the ball around. But after that first drive and the turnover, that second drive, moving the ball down to the Tennessee 38-yard line, how did you see him command the team and be able to respond after that?
Yeah, awesome. His look when he came off the field, that did not, shake him up, anything like that. He handled himself really well on the sideline. He does a great job communicating with his teammates. I thought he didn't even blink. It was one of those that we talked about it briefly there. I don't fault John for that. I fault myself for that. It was an aggressive first play call of the game, and we've repped it a ton over the last several years around here. And he got hit as he really was making a good decision because he was throwing the check down to the running back because we weren't able to slip the tight end up the sideline. They did a good job defensively, having good discipline there. So, but that's on me. That's not really on John. But I thought he handled himself well. Came back and just competed like he always does.
Offensive line did give up a sack to an SEC team that was one of the best at tackles for loss last year too, and sacks. What did you like from the offensive line?
Yeah, and I felt this way even going about halfway through training camp to get those 5 guys together. These 5 guys have played a lot of football at Ball State. They just haven't played a lot of football together. They had all started games coming into the season, but at playing the positions that they're in right now, with Joe at right tackle, with, Joe at right tackle, Jalen at right guard, Ethan at center, Damon at left guard, and Corey at left tackle. They hadn't really played those positions together. So I think it's awesome about halfway through training camp to see them start to gel together and really their confidence level grow. And it was a good team with a lot of speed that we played the other night. So to come out of that not giving up any sacks, there's still things, they all know that a lot of room for improvement, but it's awesome to be able to start out week number 1 like that and continue to just keep getting better.
Overall, biggest challenges that Western Michigan will give you?
Yeah, they're a well-rounded team. We, they're breaking in a new quarterback, but I thought, Jack Salopek handled himself really well the other night against Michigan State. Made really good decisions, didn't force the ball, made some big-time throws, and obviously showed his ability to scramble. He made some plays with his feet. The long run there on the QB run that he had was a big play, and so he's got playmakers around him. We feel like John Paddock's got playmakers around him here. He's got playmakers around him there. Those 2 running backs. We know L'Jarius Jefferson. We know Tyler. Those 2 guys have been with him, and one of them's super. You have thunder and lightning, whatever you want to call it. But those 2 guys are really good in terms of running backs to be able to get the ball to. And we know Corey Crooms. I know everybody wants to know what's going to take place without Sky Moore, but Corey Crooms has been there, and Jelani Galloway came in and had a big night the other night, led their team in yards. So he's got playmakers around him, and defensively, good defensive football team. They're going to try to heat you up. They're going to bring a lot of pressure. They pressured heavily against Michigan State the other night for a good chunk of the game. So this is going to be a great challenge for us, and we're going to have a great week of preparation here.
Very good. All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Go ahead and take questions for Clayton.
Let me get this started. I guess what's kind of been the mindset the past couple of days, as you guys are kind of moving on from that Tennessee game?
Just get back, recover, watch the film, see what we did wrong, see what we did right, reevaluate, and then move on to Western. We were lucky enough to play on Thursday. They played on a Friday. I got to watch them live, see that, try to gain a day on them. But ultimately, it's a lot of self-reflection, looking back at the tape, knowing, we did this right, did this wrong. How can we fix this? What is this going to apply to this week? Is this not going to apply to this week? And just kind of going from there.
I guess defensively, what are the things that you guys are kind of trying to fine tune leading up to this week?
I think guys trust each other and guys played really hard. I just think we need to fine tune our communication. In a game like that, how fast they go, in that atmosphere, you had to communicate at a high level. And that's our standard, is communicate at a high level. And I think we need to really hone in on that. It was hard at Tennessee to do that with their speed, but you can't let that be an excuse. There's going to be things that every team is going to do to try to manipulate your scheme, your coverage, the way you're playing things. But if we're on the same page, Stock says this all the time, if we're all wrong together, we're right. If we're disconnected and one guy's doing another thing and another guy's doing this, then we have issues. But when we play together and we communicate well, I think that we could be a really, really good defense.
Is it beneficial almost to, play a team like Tennessee week 1 that's arguably going to be, the best, or one of the best, if not the best offense that you guys will see all year?
Yeah, you could look at it that way. They are definitely high-powered, fast, explosive, tempo-wise, fastest in the country. So it's good you set that standard high early, that, if a team's going to try to tempo us, we've seen faster. If a team's going to try to spread us out, we've seen people spread us out. Those guys were trying to do some stuff to us scheme-wise. But, yeah, you prepare so hard for an opponent that first game of the year, and, of course, it was a really tough one. So you just take that into the next week. Okay, we prepared for Tennessee like this with all this effort. So how are we going to take that same effort and go to the next week? So, yeah, it is an advantage, I guess. You go get somebody that goes so fast and see something like that, but then there's other challenges that you'll see throughout the year.
Yeah, obviously, conference game this week, kind of unique being in week 2. How do you kind of balance, knowing that, every conference game means maybe a little bit more, but also realizing that, it's just another week?
Yeah, it's, those first, typically in a normal schedule, those first 4 games are non-conference. You get into conference play, and that's where it really gets down to the nitty-gritty of our ultimate goals, a MAC championship. But, a bowl game, those first 4 games, you got to be prevalent in those to get to a bowl game if you want to be a 6-7 win team. But, to look at it as a conference game, a MAC West opponent, a team that's been in and out of the MAC championship the last however many years, it's not to make it a big deal. Every game is a game, but ultimately every game is like a championship game for us. You better prepare like it's a championship game. You better play like it is. That's the standard kind of in all of our games. But especially when it hits home, when it's at home, opening weekend, versus a MAC West opponent that we've been in one possession games with for years now.
You mentioned how you had an extra day of prep on Western Michigan because they played the day after you did. What and see what they do on offense?
You're just able to see, their offensive coordinator was not there the previous year, so you're able to see kind of what he brought. Western has some things that they've done in their program with their previous quarterback. So just see if are they going to be that same style of offense, or are they going to change some things? Obviously their head coach is an offensive guy, and he brought that offensive coordinator in. So what's the influence going to be there, and trying to kind of feel that out? You obviously can't tell all of that in one game, but that helps. You look at film, you see, okay, they're going to carry this over from last year, different personnel. Obviously, they had a receiver get drafted. He's gone. Who's going to be that next receiver in that scheme? That kind of perspective.
When you look at the running back core, Coach New talked about how they have the 1-2 punch at Western Michigan.
Yeah.
What are some challenges that those two may give you?
Yeah, I mean, they move one around a lot, and the other one is probably their what they look at as their big hitter. That you deal with those backs. A 1-2 punch is really nice to have in this conference. But I'd say we deal with one of the best backs in the conference, if not the best back in the conference, day in and day out. But they obviously have 2 good running backs, and that's what I'd expect them to, with a freshman quarterback, anchor their offense on. So that those guys are going to see carries, and that those guys are going to be prevalent in their offensive scheme.
We'll talk about that running back on your team, Carson Steele. What's it like to go up against him in practice every day, to be able to now use that especially in MAC games?
Yeah, it's awesome. The guy's awesome. He loves football. He plays hard. He practices hard. And that's ultimately what we're trying to build here. You talk about John and Jay Sean and Amir and Johines and all those guys. That offense is full of guys that are going to give people in the MAC some problems. So we deal with it every day in practice, and competition is going to do nothing but make us better throughout the season.
For you, growing into a leadership role after the Tennessee game, how have you seen yourself just even continue to develop day by day into your leadership role?
You know, for me, it just comes back to just, I'm not going to go out of my way to do something crazy. I'm not going to go out of my way to become something that I'm not. I'm going to watch the film, turn the page, and move on to the next one, prepare. I'm not going to sit here and dwell on the past and not get too upset, but I'm going to turn around and tell the guys, listen, like, you know, that's a tough loss. That's a good team. We got stuff we can improve on. Let's watch the film, and let's turn the tape on to Western, and let's keep moving. You know, that process day in and day out shouldn't change, win or lose. You just got to keep grinding.
All right, thanks, Clayton.
Thank you. Appreciate it.